Rain or shine, it's here to make you laugh. It's the Steamboat Comedy Podcast. It's the Steamboat Comedy Podcast. And now your host, Kyle Ruff.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Steamboat Comedy Podcast. This is your host, yet again, Kyle Ruff. In today's episode, we're doing a cross-promotion episode, if you will, with my buddy Scott Curtis of the Behind the Bits podcast. Scott's a really cool guy. He started doing comedy when he was 50. Now he's got his own show, and he reaches out to other comedians from around the country just to get a feel for different comedy scenes and things like that. He reached out, and so we did kind of a cross-interview. I interviewed him, he interviewed me, so sorry for those of you who have already heard my boring story a couple times, but there's a little bit of that sprinkled in there. But it was a great conversation, so I hope you enjoy it. Check it out. Also want to say before the episode gets going, it is Monday the 13th. This Saturday, we still have some space available for our free outdoor show, Comedy in the Park at the Steamboat Botanic Gardens. Right now it's about half full because of the big old Rona. We have limited seating. Even though it is free, you just got to sign up ahead of time to guarantee you get a spot. You can show up at the last minute if you want. There will be standing room on the outside of the designated area, but you're better off signing up. So if you can, go ahead and jump on steamboatcomedy.com or our Facebook event and reserve your spot. There's going to be two shows, one at 5 o'clock, one at 7 o'clock, both with our buddy Pat Truer. So yeah, I hope to see you there. Check it out. And either way, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Thanks for listening.
All right, we're live on Facebook and YouTube. It's Behind the Bits podcast, and I'm here with Kyle Ruff from the Steamboat. What is it? The Steamboat.
Steamboat Comedy, I guess.
Steamboat Comedy. Steamboat is actually a city in Colorado.
Yeah, it's Steamboat Springs.
Yeah,
Steamboat for short.
Is that a ski town?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay,
definitely a ski town. It's way up. It's at northwest Colorado. So you leave Denver, you drive northwest for about 3 hours, and then you end up in a little valley with a ski hill and a bunch of rednecks.
Well, that's cool. So I found you by one of the things I'm doing is looking for independent podcasts that they don't have to center around comedy, but I kind of look at the comedy ones, and I found yours because we had a mutual guest, Mark Masters. He was one of my first guests, and I think he was one of your first guests. And I just started listening, and it seems like you guys got a really cool scene going on there. And I guess we decided to interview each other because I think you're like me. I never get to talk about myself on my podcast because they go too long, and I don't want to start talking about myself. I just like to let the guests talk. So if we talk to each other, maybe our listeners will get to know a little bit about each other.
Yeah, sounds good. I did do one episode that kind of focused on me. It was funny. Our Miles Sanchez, one of the other Steamboat comics, early on, I think it's probably like episode 5 or something like that. He's like, "Hey, I think we should do maybe just podcasts where we like feature each one of us." And I was like, "Okay, sounds good." And he goes, "You go first." I was like, "Oh, well, okay." So there's one episode that's kind of about me, but just for the sake of us getting to know each other, we can kind of talk a little more about it. And I can kind of fill you in on the Steamboat comedy scene because it's been kind of a cool thing that I'm linked with. I'm trying to adjust my shirt so you can see my logo. There it is.
Yeah, it's really neat, and I like the website, and I like what you're doing there, and especially for a fairly small town, you guys got quite a scene going there, so that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It's where, I mean, like I said, we're kind of like in the middle of nowhere. I was talking to you about where the Steamboat is, but there is a lot of really eager comics out of Denver.
Mm.
So not only have we found that there's a lot of people just like in this small town that are pretty talented and we put together shows with, but there's a lot of really talented, experienced comedians in Denver that are really looking for like chances to get showcased and stuff. So a lot of times we'll put together shows here with a lot of local talent, and then I'll call up somebody that I know is like on the verge maybe of being a headliner in Denver and
Mm.
is willing to make the trip up, and I don't have to pay him anything. And then they
Yeah.
come up and we do a show here, or I pay them very little. I give them a ski pass, and that's usually good enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been great. This little scene all started off of a Facebook post. Our buddy Don Mazuka, who's on some of the earlier episodes, him and Brittany Kohlers, or Brittany Joe Kohler. I guess I don't know exactly how she likes to go by. But Brittany, everyone in Steamboat knows Brittany. Just say crazy Brittany, she's everywhere. And they got together and they're like, this could be fun, and they put out a Facebook post, and myself and a couple other people had done comedy once or twice before, so we're like, let's do it. And we crashed an open mic, like a music open mic, and
Uh,
there was a great turnout. It went really well. And then, like a bunch of assholes, we decided to just start like booking venues and doing comedy shows with a bunch of us who have all done comedy like 3 times, and it went pretty well. and and there's kind of some ups and downs there. If you in the Steamboat Comedy Podcast, the first probably, I don't know, 8 episodes or so are kind of us going through the journey of how we got started. And like our first show we did on Valentine's Day was a big success. And then we
mm.
turned around and just booked another show a month later for St. Patrick's Day. And that was kind of a shit show. And then it's been some ups and downs. And then we've been networking with some other people. I brought in some comics from New York and, like I said, from Denver, from Chicago. And we're just trying to keep building this scene and make it kind of like a destination comedy scene. Because what we're starting to find out is that a lot of comedians like to go skiing. And
Yeah.
so I'll be like, a lot of these guys, because we all, myself included, and a lot of the other comics, a lot of people just in town here work for the
Mm.
ski resort. And so we get kind of like hookups and stuff. Like I get cheap lift tickets. And so
Mm.
I'll tell a guy like, hey, I can't really pay you for a gig, but I'll buy you a plane ticket and I'll buy you a couple days worth of lift tickets. And then my roommate will get you free rentals. What do you say about that? And they're like, awesome, let's do it. And then they come
Mm.
out and do a comedy show. They get like, $1,000 worth of vacation. And I only have to pay them, 20% of that.
Mm.
So we're trying to like build this kind of like symbiotic relationship between us and the mountain and other comedians. So
That's
far it's been
really
going great.
That's really cool. And it's, one of the things I've noticed following comedy is Denver's kind of becoming like LA and New York Junior. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many comics coming out of Denver, and that scene is getting to be where, it's tough to get mic time now because there's so many that are in line for it. So, having an alternative that isn't, several states away is really nice to be doing in your town.
Yeah, it's true. We've gone down and done some open mics down in Denver and had some good experiences, and in Boulder too.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's definitely. I mean, the whole medium is growing, but Denver as a scene, especially Denver as a city, just in general, has been blowing up in the last 20 years or so. If you go to the airport out there and you just like, look around, and there's just like vast fields with just like cookie cutter houses that you can tell they're like, oh shit, there's too many people. They just started like, crapping out houses in a row and everyone's moving into them. The whole town is just insane. But the comedy scene, it's definitely the biggest in this time zone, I would say. You know what I mean? It's kind of like New York, Chicago, Denver, LA.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to try to keep getting down there and doing more spots. We've been trying to network a little bit with some comedians. We're kind of getting our brand out there. There was a lot of good moves happening before, of course, the Rona took over, and that kind of slowed things down. But we got our foot in the door with that scene where we can kind of, have good opportunities for ourselves and for Denver comedians.
Hmm. It's really great that you've got a group of you guys working together to put these shows on, and not a single person has to take on the whole weight of it. I've got a group of young people up here by me that are doing that, and it's really great because first of all, everybody brings something else to the table. So somebody may be better at planning, and somebody may be better at art, and somebody may be better at whatever you do to get stuff out there, the media,
Social medias and
marketing, yeah, the
Mhm.
promotion stuff. So it's nice to get a group of people together, as long as you can still get along. you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the tricky part sometimes.
Yeah.
We've had relatively little drama in the comedy club here, so that's good. But no, we've got one of our regulars on the scene, a guy named Mac, really funny guy. He's a really good graphic designer, and he does a lot of our posters. Here, I'll show you. I got a bunch of posters on the wall. Check this guy out. So that's one he did for us.
Oh yeah, that's sweet.
Desperation Day. Yeah, and he did that all by hand. And then here's another one. That's our buddy Corey David from Denver. He did that one himself. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And then the local bar, they did what? This one over here.
Very nice.
So yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. We're really lucky to have a lot of talented people who are all kind of willing to help out. I do most of the heavy lifting from an organizing standpoint, and
Yeah.
trying to get funds and figure out what to do with when we do make any money, which is basically never what we do with our change to try to bribe people to come back and stuff. But yeah, no, it's a great group of people we got here, a great group of regulars who come out all the time, and we were doing nothing but growing up until obviously all of the shit in the world came to an end. But if we ever get out of this, I'm gonna hope that we keep on that same momentum.
Yeah, if people can just stay in the house for a while, we'll get over it. But
yeah,
I guess they
on
don't
your goddamn masks.
I just got a couple new ones today because I lost one, and I need a giant mask because I have a giant head. So I have to get them ordered special. I just got a couple new ones today, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, you're a big ass dude. Didn't I hear that on the other podcast? Aren't you like 6'6" or something like that?
Yeah, 6'5". Yeah, actually, I'm shrinking a little bit though. So I think I'm like 6'4" and 3/4 now. So
if you were dyslexic, we'd be the same height, I think.
Yeah. So did you grow up in the Steamboat area, or where did you grow up?
No, I grew up in the Midwest.
Okay.
Close to
where
you're at.
Ohio.
I grew up just south of the Michigan border in Ohio, between Toledo and Bowling Green, if anybody knows where that is.
Yeah.
Basically in the farm fields out there. It's funny, I grew up in the sticks, basically, and I got a buddy who is from Nebraska, but he's from Omaha. He's from a big city. And everyone always talks oh, you're from the cornfields in Nebraska, you big hillbilly. And no one ever says that to me, even though I actually grew up in the cornfields. And he grew up in a city. And he's like, why is everyone giving me shit about this? Just because I'm from Nebraska. But yeah, so I grew up out there, and then I went to college at Northern Michigan University, which is in the UP, way up there. And did that for a while. After college, I moved to Cincinnati for a couple of years, hanging out with my brother lives there. And then I was actually going to teach English in South Korea. And in the meantime, a friend of mine from college, Mr. Reed Belmonte, who I've recently talked into doing comedy with us, that's how I keep growing the series. I just pester all of my friends until they give it a shot. It's working out pretty well. But he was like, hey, before you go to Korea, you should come hang out with me in Glacier National Park in Montana. And I was like, okay. I had a couple months to kill, and I moved out there. and fell in love with it. And in the meantime, the South Korea thing fell through, to make a long story short.
Huh.
And that was where I met this really cool community of people. And it was this seasonal work kind of scene. Like a lot of people work the national park circuits and stuff. And there's a big group of us that would spend every summer in Glacier National Park, and then every winter here in Steamboat Springs. So like a pipeline going back and forth. And I did that for 5 years. And it was great. I love Glacier National Park. If you ever get a chance to go, it's way the hell out in the middle of nowhere, but it's just the best. It's
I've
some of
I've
the most
heard
beautiful
really
country on earth.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I miss it every day. But
Yeah.
I kind of got sick of the company I was working for there, and also in the meantime, this comedy thing kind of started here, and I was like, I'm just gonna live in Steamboat year round. So now I've been here for 2 years straight. Um, and it's a great little town. It's got that same kind of seasonal vibe where, in the spring and the fall, we call it mud season, if you will. Everything kind of shuts down, it slows down. It's a really cool spot, man. It's a great town. It's beautiful in the summer too. Everyone comes here for the winter for the skiing, but in the summer there's a lot to do outside. It's really green. Everyone floats the river downtown. And occasionally they do stand-up comedy.
Yeah, that's cool. It's amazing how many comics come from small towns. It just seems like that's a common denominator for so many comics. Your small town, there was a cornfield. I mean, that's exactly what I had. So it's neat to see that. As far as comedy is concerned, so when you first started doing stand-up, it was there in Steamboat, right?
No, well, the first time I did stand up was in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Okay. Ann Arbor, Michigan. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Home of Bob Seger.
Is it really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Grew up in Ann Arbor. Yep.
Nice. I thought I grew up in Scatmandu, but I guess I don't know. But no, my girlfriend is in grad school there.
Okay.
She has been for several years, and I skipped out on one winter to move to Ann Arbor with her, just to kind of give the whole like regular world a shot again. And it fell through. I couldn't stand it. I had to be somewhere that, where everyone is a derelict like here. But there was a comedy club there, and it had been something I'd always thought about, but I was always living in these random remote locations, and so I never really had a chance to do it. And we went to an open mic, and watched it, and it's one of those things where there's some good people and some bad people, and you think to yourself like, well, like even if I completely eat shit, I'll at least be better than that guy was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, what do I really have to lose?
Yeah.
And so I went up there, and it went really well. And I was like, this is great. I invited out some friends I was working with there at the time and got some good responses. And then I ended up moving back to Steamboat. And that's when the random Facebook post happened. And I was like, it was actually a friend of mine had known that I had done it, and he tagged me in it. And so then I got on board with that and met all these people. And the rest is history, as they say.
That's cool. Now, growing up, who were your comedy influences? Who were the ones that made you want to do that?
I mean, the urge just to be funny was a combination of my dad and Jim Carrey, probably. Okay. And maybe a little Mike Myers and Farley, those kind of people.
Yeah.
Just always like that. Always just like, making my friends laugh. And I was into performing. I was really into acting as a kid. I used to do a lot of theater, things like that. And then life just kind of happened, and you go to college, you go through the motions. But that all went away, or at least was dormant for a while, and then it came back out after college. When I got a chance to do some stand up in Ann Arbor, several years later. I didn't do my first bit. It was the week after my 29th birthday.
Okay.
So But then like influences, I mean, those are some of my favorites. I'm a big fan of like Doug Stanhope for like actual stand-up comedy. Stanhope, I was always like George Carlin, even when I was a kid. Um, but I wasn't super into stand-up comedy as a kid just because it wasn't really prevalent. You know what I mean? It
Hmm.
was more just like comedic actors and Saturday Night Live and that kind of thing.
Yeah, the whole
Uh,
heyday of stand up kind of, that was like 82 to 89.
mhm,
That's when Seinfeld came up and Leno
mhm,
and all those folks came up during that time. And then, it was kind of a vast wasteland for a while, but that's when all the comedy clubs actually started sprouting up after the heyday. And they were too late. The big comedy clubs obviously were there, but these small ones like what did we have? We didn't have a Zanies. We had it was like a laugh comedy. It was a franchise comedy club, and it went on for a few years, and I saw some good comics there, but it just wasn't sustainable because they had these giant rooms that they had to pay for, and pay for the comic, and pay for the booze and all that kind of stuff, and it just wasn't something that was sustainable. And then
yeah.
we started getting comedy in smaller rooms around here, and that works a lot better. So it's kind of a weird evolution that it's not so much the club stuff anymore as you're going to find comedy at a brewery. You're going to find it at a bar, a VFW. You're going to find it all those places now instead of a dedicated comedy club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's definitely still the best places to go are some of the dedicated ones, but I think uh, a lot of places are just a lot of like eager young comedians, which is basically what we're doing here. Will just be like, hey, I'm gonna go to the bar down the street and say, do you guys want to do comedy on Thursdays? And
Mm.
then the bar's like, sure, we got basically nothing to lose, and then they organize it and that kind of thing. I feel like that's just so much easier than having to have a dedicated club and
Yeah.
investing in it. So it kind of makes sense to have that kind of organic growth in that kind of way.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I've kicked around the idea of like maybe someday we'll start a comedy club here in Steamboat, and then I'm like, who the hell is gonna be there? like I got like 6 people that I have to beg just to come to open mic here half the time. And
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, we have good turnouts most of the time, but like in the mud season month, I'll be like, hey, you guys, anybody come in? And it'll be me doing 45 minutes and some guy I picked out of the crowd. Um, but yeah, that's great. So for your kind of scene, is it all mics that you're running yourself, or what is that like, or where do you go?
So we have a comedy club that is part of a bar diner. It's called the Drop Comedy Club, and what they
Okay.
did is they built a room on, and they've got curtains and stuff like that, and it seats. I think they can do like maybe up to 80 people, 70 or 80 people in there, if they take the tables out and just put chairs. And
Mhm.
they get some pretty big name comedians. They get a lot from Chicago because we're so close to Chicago. But I've seen Stuart Huff there. I think Bob Zaney's done that one. I mean they get really really good ones, and then really good up and coming ones. So you get a real good variety. So they've got that, and then I've put on a few shows myself. You mentioned shit show. Mine have all been pretty much shit shows. I mean, I did have one that had a really good turnout, and my thing is I want some of these comics that haven't experienced getting paid to understand what it means to get paid. So I always do $5 at the door, and I split stuff up equally between them, and that way they can go away with something. I mean, it's been $15 and up to $30, and that's it. But it's something, and they know what it means to get paid, because I think that's what comics forget to ask sometimes, and they think that they're 10 or 20 minutes on stage isn't worth anything. But when you think about all the work that you put in to get that tight 10, tight 20, that's a lot of hours. So you should get paid.
Sure. I mean, if it was up to me, I'd get paid a whole bunch every time I do
Yep.
comedy, but it doesn't always work that way. I mean, we have had some shows where we've charged at the door, and it's still had good attendance. And but usually, I mean, I usually sink so much money into promotions and things like that at the end of the day we only make a few bucks. And most of the guys around here are pretty understanding, and they're like, just put it towards, like new equipment or new, like trying to get people out here. Anyone's pretty much on board, especially, and it's one of these things too, that like right before the Corona hit, we were kind of starting to get on like more of like a consistent, we're all actually bringing in a little revenue from what we're doing. That all kind of crashed. We did 2 shows right before the pandemic hit the town here. It was I did a show. I had 2 lined up for a Thursday and a Friday. We had a Thursday was a free. We tried to do a storytelling show. Is like in the style of This Is Not Happening. Like if you know the Comedy Central show.
Yep.
Which we actually, in one of the podcasts, the one we did with Sean Patton, he was coming through and we hit him up. We actually called Ari Shafir on the phone at the end, and he was like, we like got his blessing to use it. It was pretty cool. he was just like in a green room. He's like, yeah, what do you want? Yeah, sure. Maybe Comedy Central will pick you up. Bye. Like, yeah, we talked to Ari Shafir. So we did that, and they had a great turnout. But then, like I said, that was right when shit was starting to get crazy. And then Friday, the next day, we had a show, and I charged $10 at the door, and we only sold 19 tickets, which normally this venue will max at about 100 people.
Yeah.
And so that was just a big bummer, and nobody wanted to go outside. I ended up losing my ass on the money on that after I paid a bunch of comics from Denver to come up. So it's for me, it's like I'd like to pay everyone, but breaking even sometimes is a little difficult.
Yeah.
So,
and as long as everybody that you're working with's on board, the reason why I want these, I mean, these are just kids. I mean, these guys some of them are, barely 21, and I just want them to understand that, they've got some worth, and I don't need any money, so I want them to get some money, and I know people, so if I can get people to let me do it and get people to come, then I can bring them up. So that's the whole thing that I'm trying to do. And I did one, it was really cool. I hired a guy to a professional videographer, and I did a showcase, and I gave everybody 10 minutes, and I had him do separate videos for each comic, and high quality stuff. And then I got those chopped up and put into a OneDrive and gave it to all of them. And instead of paying them, I paid him. And, I made just enough to pay him. I think I had to kick in like $5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now they've got a high quality video that they can send to clubs and stuff.
And that's great. And a lot of them probably would have had to pay a good chunk of money to do that on their own anyway. So,
yeah.
If just doing good material will pay for someone recording a good material, I'd say that's a win-win.
Yeah. Yeah. The bad part was they recorded me too, and I just did a shit job. So that's a waste.
That's funny. Yeah, I try to record most things that we do. There is on steamboatcomedy.com. There's a couple of our live shows that are recorded on there. We did one at the Chief Theater last summer. So there's a public, I guess it's not technically public, but a mostly public theater downtown that fits about 140 people. Actually about 150. And we did a free show there last summer and sold the place out. They're bringing in extra chairs, and I paid a guy to film that one, and it was totally worth it.
Mhm.
We all kind of pitched in, and so that's great. And so now everyone who was in that show can direct their family and everyone to the website and watch their bits. And I just uploaded a couple more. We did a show New Year's Eve that the theater actually organized themselves, and they just kind of contracted us, each of us, $50 to be in it.
Mhm.
And that was another sold out one. It was awesome. And then got a thing on my phone. Oh wait. And we just finally got the recordings of that, so all of that's on the YouTube page too. So we've had pretty good luck with getting our stuff recorded. And I've been trying to do that's another kind of draw to try to get more people in. Like, hey, you can show your friends that you did it,
Yep.
that kind of thing. You know,
Yep.
because it doesn't really cost anything as long as you already got the camera.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. Yep. That's great. So if somebody comes to see you do comedy, what should we expect out of your act?
Some amateur bullshit. I don't know. I my personal act is kind of more um I wouldn't say that it like toes the line of being clean, but it's not, you know.
Mhm.
Like I could probably keep it relatively clean. It's a lot of like I talk a lot about like relationship stuff, kind of like observational, some storytelling stuff like that. Um that's more of my wheelhouse. I'm not great on the one-liners. We got a guy who comes and does a lot of our shows, a guy named Matt Newland from
Mhm.
around here. Hilarious guy, and he's really good. He does the real like kind of like not one-liners, but like maybe like two-liners. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Great with the setup and the punchline, and he's got a great dry delivery. And I like that kind of humor, but it's not natural for me. It's not my kind of style.
Yeah.
You know, I'm more of a storyteller, and I like to kind of like get animated. I do I do a bit about girls who go to the gym and only work out their butts,
Uh-huh.
and which I don't know if you've seen. I just call them butt girls. They're
Yeah.
everywhere, and I'll get up on stage and I kind of do all the motions of all the ass exercises they do and things like that.
Uh-huh.
I like being silly and falling down and shit like that. You
Uh-huh.
know. What about
Yeah,
you? What's your style like?
that sounds good. Actually, very close to the same. I mean, a lot of mine's relationship stuff and raising kids stuff. I'm actually, the funny thing is during this virus stuff, I don't know if you had the same trouble I had, but it's hard to write because you don't see an end to it and you don't see any reason to do it. So
Yeah.
so I'm actually forcing myself every morning to write out some of those one and two liners, just so that I'm doing something. And I'll do like pull up the USA Today site and just do stuff on the news and stuff like that. And I'll never use it, but I've done a couple Zoom mics where I did that and it actually went okay. So I'm doing that, but my real stuff is really the same as you. It's stories. It's I've been with my wife for 37 years and I've got two kids that are grown. So I've got that stuff and I am starting to write a little bit about my childhood and stuff like that too. But I'm clean. And the funny thing is, I cuss a lot as a regular, uh, you know, the autocorrect on my phone, if I type the word F in, fuck just comes up now. So
Right.
that's the way I text. But I've always thought that I should be clean on stage just because of the way I look. Because I don't look like a guy who would talk dirty. I look like a pharmacist or a basketball coach or something. So,
Well, you could
um,
be like Bob Saget and just throw everyone a curveball. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Aren't you the dad on that show? And he's up there
yeah,
talking about fisting and whatever nasty shit he talks about.
yeah.
But
It's funny. The comics around here will give each other notes, and I've got a bit where I talk about my wife and I. Somebody says we don't have anything in common. I talk about what we have in common, and um, I mix a lot of young language with old language. So I said we don't front, and I go into, she don't front, I don't front. And one of the comics said, you should really punctuate that with, yeah, we don't fuck around. And I tried it a couple times, and it went really well, but I didn't feel like it fit. It didn't fit my image, so I had to lose that. And it's always there in my back pocket, but it I just don't feel good about inserting that when I've been clean the whole time. So
Sure.
yeah.
You can do a little mix of the old and new and be like, these whippersnappers don't fuck around, you know?
I you know, and that's one of the things I'm doing. I'm just looking for words.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, sometimes you just got to throw shit out and see what sticks, you
Yeah.
know? Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's good. Being clean, or at least writing clean, and you could always like dirty it up, sprinkle a little dirt on there.
Mhm.
But it gives you, as I actually talked to our last two podcasts ago, talking with our buddy Pat Truer,
Mhm.
uh, just being clean or having the option of it just opens so many doors
Yeah.
for you. You know what I mean? So it's a good habit to get into. And then if you're in, a club with a bunch of young kids and they're, rowdy frat boys, and you can always be like, fucking, right?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Dirty words. And switch it up is easy to do. It's easier to do that than the other way around, than try
Yeah.
to clean up a dirty act.
The thing is everybody wants to be true to themselves, and I think you can approach like tough subjects and still stay clean. And
Hmm.
you can do sex, you can do racism, you can do, everything that's going on today, you can do that and stay clean.
Hmm.
Or you can go the other way and just, go on a total tirade and you use all the words. And
Hmm.
both of them are great. None of them offend us. And but it's just what you choose to do.
Sure. Yeah, you got to find your voice. I mean, that's really part of what it's about. It's funny. I was who was it? We were just talking the other day, and somebody was asking me, they're kind of like, oh, what what comic do you compare yourself to, and that kind of thing. And I just don't. Uh, I don't know. I never think about writing anything in any voice other than my own, which I guess
Mhm.
sounds kind of cheesy, but it's like, like I'm not doing a character when I'm
Yeah.
on stage, I'm just being myself.
Mhm.
And sometimes I don't even know what it is because I don't always know what it looks like from the outside other than when I like watch it later. But
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. The whole like finding your voice is one thing, but the whole like doing a character thing was always kind of foreign to me. Outside of like an
That
impersonation,
right,
you know?
and the problem with that is it's great if it works. So, let's bring Larry the Cable Guy in. So,
Yeah.
that worked for him, but that's the only thing he can be now. And you just know that he gets sick of saying "get her done" and
I would
all
hope
that
so. I'm
stuff.
sick of it.
Yeah. And but
Yeah.
that's comedy for the masses. And he obviously, you know, I guess if I was at his stage when he started and I found out I could, buy a couple houses and boats and all that kind of stuff by saying "get her done," I might do it too. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things people can shit on Larry the Cable Guy, but it's like, yeah, he's also like a multi-millionaire and
yeah,
everyone loves him and he does commercials and movies and stuff. So it's like,
yeah,
like, is he really doing it wrong? I don't think he is. I
yeah.
think he's doing just fine.
And
Yeah.
Carrot Top's had a show in Vegas for how many years?
Oh,
He's
forever.
got so much money he doesn't know what to do with it.
I would love the last time I was in Vegas, I tried really hard to see Carrot Top because I've heard his show is so great, but it was sold out. I couldn't see it. Me and my
Yeah.
dad were gonna see it and we waited too long. It was sold out like 2 days ahead of time.
Did you get a chance to see Penn and Teller when you were there?
No, God, I wish.
Yeah,
No, I didn't get to see any comedy in Vegas. I
yeah,
wanted to see any of those guys. Plus, the amazing Jonathan has been there forever, and I've
yeah.
heard that his act is just the best.
Did you watch his documentary?
No, I heard about it though. He's a wild man.
Yeah, it's on Hulu, and the guy that did the documentary, he was with him for a few years on doing that, and he's supposed to be dying of cancer, and it turns out that that may not be the case, and he's just saying that to get sympathy or whatever. But man,
Man.
he's done more cocaine in his life than I think 30 other people who did a lot of cocaine.
Could be in the cocaine Olympics.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's the cure for cancer is you just douse it in cocaine every day. Who
Yeah.
knows? Yeah, wow. Yeah, I've been meaning to see that. I've heard good things about it. But yeah, I haven't seen a lot of big acts in person. I saw Mark Norman in Ann Arbor. He was great. That was before I really even knew who he was too. Uh, I was really bummed. Sean Patton came through town and everybody got to see him, but me. I got to hang out with him, which was cool, but I didn't just see him until I saw a little bit of his stuff online. But I had to
Mhm.
work that night, and all my friends went and hung out with him and got to see his show. But yeah, I'm just hoping to bring more people here. Just find the
Yeah.
famous people I like and be like, "Come here," and then I can watch you.
Yeah. That's
You know?
cool. Yeah. You need, if you got a Twitter account, tweet to Norman that he needs to do my podcast. I've been bugging him. I even put a video together to come on, and he's dodging me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's one of the ones. Word on the street is that Norman likes to ski, so I'm gonna try to maybe
Oh,
coax him out here at some point in time.
yeah. There you
We'll
go.
see. I'll have to bring you out too.
Yeah, it's great that you do the podcast there because once you snare them, then you can corner them to do the podcast too.
Yeah, I mean, it usually works out fine. We're like, because there's not like there's. I don't want to say there's not a lot to do here because there is. There's a lot of cool stuff to do here. But if you get done skiing and you're just hanging out waiting to go to a bar at night, I'll just be like, "Hey, you want to come be on my podcast for an hour,
Yeah.
half an hour?" And like,
Uh-huh.
sure. And I basically set my room up here to be a studio with I got like soundproof tiles and I got a green screen for shooting some videos and things. I
Mm.
got some projects coming up. So yeah, we're like, come on over, we'll give you a beer. We can talk for 30 minutes. And most of them are like, yeah, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
So works out pretty well.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. As far as what you've got going on as far as social media and stuff like that, where can people find the Steamboat Comedy page and all that?
Sure. We have a Twitter, but no one updates it. By no one, I mean I don't update it. But we have steamboatcomedy.com is the website that links to our YouTube page and a lot of other things.
Mm.
YouTube page is good, but we pretty pretty active on Instagram, especially, and our Facebook page. If you want to find our events and stuff too. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's all at Steamboat Comedy.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
I
And the
found
podcast is
Instagram.
everywhere too.
Yeah, I found that Instagram's really kind of the big deal now. It
Yeah.
seems to be the one that gets the most likes and people actually see the stuff.
Yeah, it's very digestible, if you
Yeah.
will. Like it doesn't take a lot to update. You just take a silly picture. It's easy to get stuff out. It's easy for
Yeah.
people to just look at it and be like, oh, and they get everything they need and then scroll to the next dopamine hit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's Instagram is probably what we do the most. And then if there's like more like announcements, that kind of thing is going to be on the Facebook page as well.
Mm. Cool. I just liked the Facebook page today. I found it and liked it.
Well, thank you, sir. What about you? Where can our listeners find your stuff?
I'm at, well, first of all, I'm on all the apps and I'm on the btbpc.com because I couldn't get the behind the bits URL because somebody already had it. They didn't have a website, but they had it. So it's the btbpc.com. And that links to all my socials. Everything is at Behind the Bits, except for my Twitter is the BTBPC. So and I'm pretty active on all of them. I actually right now I'm combining the Behind the Bits YouTube. I'm putting this stuff on there, and I'm also putting on some of my comedy stuff too.
Nice. Cool, man. Yeah, looking forward to seeing it and checking it out. The last podcast you did, double checking those guys' names. It was the one before that with Big Bova and Big Earn. Those guys,
Yeah,
they were funny. Those are some
yeah.
funny dudes. I
You know,
really like that podcast.
that took a shitload of editing, I'll tell you, because everybody was cutting out. I had like 30 seconds of silence, and
Oh
that one,
no.
it was I had about an hour and a half recorded, and I think I took it down to like 48 minutes by the time I edited out everything you couldn't hear.
Mm-hmm. Oh geez, yeah. I've definitely spent a lot of time editing podcasts. I don't as much anymore. I'm just like, because I used to go through and like cut out all the ums and the likes and even
Yep.
all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But now I don't give a shit. So people can hear me say
Yeah.
that's how I talk.
There's
The
actually
worst was I tried to we invited our buddy Robbie Bernstein from New York. He came out here to do a show, did a podcast with us, but we didn't do it until after our big show. We did it like midnight because he was leaving the next morning. We're all hammered, and I started trying to talk politics and just random shit. And I swear to God, I've never wanted to like hurt myself so badly as the next day listening to it again. I was
yeah.
like, I am such a fucking idiot, and
Yeah.
I probably cut out at least an hour of it. It was so. At least, I mean, it felt like an hour. It was probably only 20 minutes, but god damn. Now I just try to be not hammered going in, and then it saves me a lot
Yeah.
afterwards, you know.
Yeah, I've cut some of my stuff out. I very rarely cut out anything a guest says unless they ask me to. But yeah, I let it go. I have found this service called Descript that you can upload your podcast to, and it does a transcription, but it finds all the ums, and you can just delete them, and it's like one fell swoop.
No
And
shit.
yeah,
That's pretty
and
nice.
I think it's only $10 a month. I haven't actually subscribed yet. I'm actually doing free accounts because they give you 2 hours of free stuff, and I'm just doing free accounts with all my different emails right now.
There you go. Just make infinity emails. Behind
Yeah,
the bits 1, behind the bits 2, behind the bits 3. Yeah,
yeah.
that's pretty cool. What'd you say it was called again?
Descript.
Descript.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's
Check that
DE
out.
and script. And I the funny thing is the first one I loaded in there was 348 ums, and I couldn't believe it. So
That's a
I'm
lot of
trying
ums.
very hard not to say it anymore.
It's a habit I've been trying to the ums and the likes.
Yep.
Likes when I listen to myself, especially as soon as you start to notice it, you can't unhear it, and you'll hear people. I was just floating down the river, and I passed this girl, and she's like, and it was like, and they liked it this, and it was like that, and I was like, there was more likes than there was not likes in that
Right.
sentence. Like
Yeah.
it's insane. So yeah, I've been trying really hard to cut those out, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And the nice thing about that program is if you're getting any better or not.
Yeah,
If
there you
it's
go.
less than 348, then I'm getting a little better.
Yeah, have a goal to go down 20
Yeah.
likes per show.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
And I think they have updated it. There was an update that came up that you can highlight certain words besides So it's worth it to check out because it spits out the stuff, and it's seamless. It doesn't even look like you edited the stuff out, and that's a lot
Nice.
easier than going through every second and saying, okay, I don't like this, I don't like that, and taking it out.
Yes. But of course, if you did it there, you would just say, I don't this, I don't that.
Yeah.
So call your likes out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ruin all your similes, turn them into metaphors.
Yep.
Oh, cool. I got to get going, boss. This has been great. Love
Yeah, it was great talking to you.
A lot of fun. Yeah, and we'll send all the Steamboat Comedy listeners your way. Behind the Bits, check it out. Like I was saying before, checking out your previous episodes, really funny stuff. I got to check the one with Mark Masters too. He's a buddy. He every time we put out a podcast, he'll send me a text. He's like, "Oh, great job!" So I'm like, "Thanks, Mark." And
Yeah.
I've been trying to direct people his way. He's just one of those guys. He's so enthusiastic about comedy.
Yeah.
It's great. You know what I mean? It's good energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's another one that started later in life, so that's cool.
Yeah. How old did you say you were when you started?
50.
That's pretty good. Nice round number.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
56 and not a whole lot better, but I was getting there right before the Rona.
Yeah, right. Well, when it comes down to it, you can always just blame coronavirus. That's
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Kyle. Well, it was great talking to you. As we said, I'll just send you this audio stuff and we can edit it down the way we want to then.
Sounds good. And I'll say too, for the Steamboat Comedy listeners, don't forget to check out our page. We have a free outdoor comedy show coming up with our buddy Pat Truer at the Yampa River Botanic Garden. It's going to be great. We're doing 2 shows. It's free, but because of the Rona, we're only allowed to have 63 people per show because
Okay.
how they have to space them out.
Mhm.
So it doesn't cost you anything, but you got to sign up ahead of time to reserve a spot, or at least guarantee one.
Yeah. Cool.
Sweet.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Kyle.
Thank you, Scott. We got to do this again. Just let me know anytime you want.
Yeah. Have a great rest of your day. It's earlier there. It's almost 5 o'clock here.
Yep. Yeah. It's only 3 here.
Yeah. All right. Well, you have a good one, Kyle. Thanks a lot.
All right. You too, brother. We'll see you next time.
Rain or shine, it's here to make you laugh. It's the Steamboat Comedy Podcast. It's the Steamboat Comedy Podcast.